Anyway, let's have a look at Bloodborne. PC Remaster gets huge update. We're getting close.
A couple of weeks ago, I released a video talking about how Bloodborne is finally getting a remaster of sorts, though not by official means, but rather via emulation.
The fucking lighting was so scuffed a couple of weeks ago. I scrolled past it, did I? Whatever, doesn't matter.
In that video, I showcased Bloodborne running at 720p 60 frames per second.
Running was a overstatement back then. Like, the lighting was entirely busted.
Being played on Shad PS4 version 0.2.7. I also had a whole handful of mods installed so that I could ensure better performance, and also fixing a lot of the issues that Shad PS4 had while running Bloodborne. The footage that you guys are seeing now is Bloodborne running at 1440p at 60 frames per second, with a lot of those visual issues finally alleviated, most notably the...
Is there any visual issues left? This... unless I'm misremembering how Bloodborne looks, this looks like Bloodborne. I don't notice anything missing, at least immediately. Considering it went from a red title screen to just bad lighting, but playable in a few months is insane. Oh, it's fucking wild. It is absolutely wild. I don't know. Maybe there's something missing, but I don't see it at least.
Lighting issue. Along with the memory leak issues, this lighting problem was probably one of the biggest, and this is now fixed. All of the lighting works correctly.
Maybe some of the texturing's not... Yeah, maybe like texture effects are not working correct. I think these textures look flat.
On version 0.3.1. And because the lighting is now fixed, this also means that...
Actually, no, yeah, there's definitely still issues with texturing on the cloak here.
Same memory leak issue that Bloodborne had while emulating has now been fixed. This means that the game isn't as taxing on your GPU in order to emulate. And the best thing about all of this is this footage is unmodded footage. Aside from the patches that are already built into Shad PS4, we'll talk about that very soon, there is no mods or fixes downloaded from the Bloodborne Nexus installed here. Up until about now, you were pretty much required to download a whole handful of mods and fixes in order to get Bloodborne to a semi-working level. But with the most up-to-date work-in-progress version of Shad PS4, 0.3.
What sort of hardware do you need for Shad PS4? Let me have a look. Shad PS4 hardware requirements. Like recommended, not minimum. I don't want the minimum. Recommended. Okay, I don't... Nobody cares about the fucking recommended. I want the fucking recommended, not the minimum. I don't know. I can't find any good information on it.
1, it can play Bloodborne pretty impressively straight from the get-go. Now, there was a new feature that was added to the emulator in version 0.3.0, and that is the cheats and patches. Now you can right-click on a game within your library and select cheats and patches. This will bring up a database of currently available patches.
Joy feels fairly similar to PCSX2. I would not be surprised if they were borrowing some of that UI stuff. At least with the older version of it.
And cheats for the game. And here, as you can see, we have a whole bunch of patches already available for Bloodborne. The only ones...
If I remember correctly, PS4 emulation is not actually that much more demanding than PCS3 due to the only partially emulation, the rest just translate. Well, yeah, it's the PS4 was a AMD... Well, okay, the biggest issue with the PS4 is the shared memory. I think it was like, was it 8? I think it was like 8 gigs of GDDR4, and that was all of the memory. So it shared the GPU and CPU memory across one thing. That, I would imagine, would be the biggest problem. But the actual, like, architecture, it was an x86 machine.
that I have installed is disabling motion blur along with chromatic aberrations, skipping the intro, as well as 60 frames per second and the 1440p resolution patch. And the great thing about this is it means that you can easily toggle what patches you want on and off, which means that you can easily switch between your desired resolution. We can even bump the resolution.
Eventually that's going to be not a patch, that's going to be like a selector.
And up to 4K, and there's even support for ultra-wide. This is great because it means that you don't actually have to apply Lance McDonald's patch to Bloodborne, so patching the entire eboot file, we can just enable...
I'm surprised they've got ultra-wide working already. That's actually really cool.
60 frames per second, straight from Shad PS4. Now, with saying all of this, it's not to say that Bloodborne is currently in a perfect state. We still have the special effects issues, so a lot of the special effects throughout the game just do not work. Straight up don't work. Like the little light glow that indicates an item is on the ground or over a corpse of an enemy just simply doesn't appear at all.
Also, those gloves were clearly not textured correctly either. Yeah, that's clearly using a placeholder texture.
Over a corpse of an enemy just simply doesn't appear at all. The fire effect is not visible either. While fire still works and can be interacted with the player taking damage, the actual effect cannot be seen for the likes of bonfires or enemies' torches. Along with that, fog and other magic-based projectiles just straight up don't work. From time to time, you'll come across chunks of the level geometry not even being there. It will just straight up disappear. This isn't to say that no collision is present where it should be. The collision still remains, but floors, walls, and just general objects...
Oh, well, that makes fighting Farthinghouse going a bit more annoying then.
...within the environment itself has a tendency to just not load in. This can also happen with enemies too. I ran into a funny scenario of the cleric being invisible. And yes, actually, I did in fact win against him being invisible. Achievement unlocked.
To be fair, cleric beast's not that hard.
Being grab attacked by the boss, like, this is fantastic. It's like I'm being thrown around by a ghost. There's still a lot of texture issues as well, and this is mainly for when the player character attacks an enemy and the blood texture then gets splattered onto the character model. The emulator doesn't know how to display this correctly. So it will just show a very corrupt bug.
Okay, so that's why the gloves looked weird. There was blood on the gloves.
Looking texture. This can get super wacky sometimes. It can either be applied to the actual player character model or enemies. Do you like my sparkly tinfoil pants? Although the lighting has been fixed for the most part, the vertex explosions, basically when the texture freaks out and expands and stretches from the player character model across the entire screen, is still a problem. Though what I found from my experience of playing on this new version of Shad PS4 is it doesn't happen as often. Now, a lot of these issues can be fixed by simply just rebooting the emulator, because in its current version right now, these problems are still pretty consistent. So you'll find yourself, if you do want to do a run of Bloodborne on Shad PS4 right now, which, yes, the game is fully playable from start to finish, you'll find yourself rebooting the emulator a numerous amount of times. I think over the course
look, if it doesn't crash, it's fine.
Playing for about 4 hours, I had something like 20 reboots. The good news though is with applying the skip intro patch, it only takes about 15 to 20 seconds to boot back into Bloodborne, and also Bloodborne has this tendency to autosave quite often, so you don't really ever lose any progress with the game running into problems, having to...
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't know how Souls games do it. Like, Souls games seem to always have a save of exactly where you are, but there's never an issue with it, like, saving in the background, right? Like, you don't ever have an issue with, like, it lagging. So I have no idea how they've built their save system. Doesn't it save every step? Yeah, no, it does. That's what I mean, right? I don't know how they've built their save system so efficiently. Whereas some games, it takes, like, 30 seconds to save something.
Reboot. And a scenario where you are going to be forced to reboot is crashes. Yes, crashes still persist in the game.
Fair enough.
Whether it be going to attack a certain enemy just randomly before your weapon connects with the enemy, the game will crash.
Wasn't happy about that.
Some kind of issue with the emulator displaying the correct shaders for when you attack enemies, or in some cases of the level trying to load in, it will just struggle and give up on itself and crash. The other big one here is sound. There is currently almost no sound in the game. Some of the ambient background sounds
that's a big problem then.
Yeah, but no sound whatsoever. This is something that has been an issue right the way through. There is actually a mod to install all of the sounds back into Bloodborne, but from the get-go, this isn't something that currently works. So I think you can tell from all of that alone, there's still many issues that currently do exist with emulating Bloodborne. Some of these problems can
Well, I wasn't aware of the sound issues. Whenever anyone's showing it, they're usually showing, like, screenshots. Like, hey, look, Bloodborne's playable. And they don't actually mention that part.
Fixed via downloading a lot of the currently available mod fixes on the Bloodborne Nexus. In this footage though, I really just wanted to showcase the Bloodborne experience without any of those additional mods. The big thing here though with this current version is the lighting has
So how long until Sony shuts it down?
been fixed. It displays correctly as it should, as if you are running it on normal hardware on a PS4 or on a PS5. It looks fantastic, and the game is less demanding. Though still demanding to be sure, emulation is always a more demanding thing than of course just playing it on the actual hardware. This brings us closer to a remastered Bloodborne experience. And talking about a proper remastered experience, there does exist a remastered mod for Bloodborne that was originally uploaded at the beginning of September. It upgrades all of the textures.
I give it right before they fully optimize the port, like right before. Yeah, probably.
To 2 times their normal resolution. It adds in things like dynamic shadows, improved aliasing, boosted ambient occlusion, and improved texture render distance. You know, just all of those different things you'd come to expect from an official remaster. Now, this isn't something that I would recommend with Bloodborne in its current state, with the current version.
It'll probably be good in like 6 months. Like, some people are expecting end of the year, but I don't know if it'll be that soon, but within 6 months, I'd be very surprised if we still had any issues, assuming Sony doesn't, like, shut it down.
Of shared PS4. This is something that once Bloodborne is correctly working 120% on shared PS4, which just judging by the progress that's being made by the developers, it's happening staggeringly quick. I would say by almost the end of the year, we'll probably have a fully working Bloodborne.
Well, here's the thing, right? Usually what happens is it's the same thing with everything. What's the saying? Fucking, the last 10% of the work takes 90% of the effort. Something like that. What I'm wondering is if it'll be safe to stream this on Twitch when it's fully ready. Yeah. No, I get you. I get you.
That would be the correct time to install.
So far, no one's getting striked for this, like, on YouTube. So
the remaster project.
Maybe.
Now, I also want to mention, too, that I wasn't playing at a consistent, stable 60 frames per second. I certainly was experiencing dips. There is quite a bit of stutter, to be sure. I could have installed the Bloodborne Visual Tweaks mod, created by FromSoftServe, the same guy creating the remaster project, which I showcased in my last video, which removes a lot of the miscellaneous level detail in order to boost performance. I also could have either played the game at 720p or 1080p. But just to show you guys what the current version of the emulator is capable of right now without any of those additional...
Right, but you could have a game developer going after people. Even if Twitch doesn't care, game developer, like the FromSoft probably doesn't care, but fucking Sony might.
Additional mods and fixes, it is impressive that the emulator currently can, without any additional help, run the game at something like 1440p and almost 60 frames per second. So that's the current update on the Bloodborne Remaster or Bloodborne PC.
Honestly, I would be very surprised if From Software didn't want to do a PC release. Like, I would be so, like, I'm always certain they are aware that people want it. Sony just doesn't like money. Well, it's clear they don't like money. That's why they funded Concord. They wanted to get rid of as much money as possible.
Project. It seems like every few days a new version of shared PS4 comes out. It's pretty insane to think that something like this is finally, after long await, after almost 10 years of Bloodborne being out, is finally becoming a reality. I do hope that, like, with this now being a thing, that Sony actually take a look at this and think to themselves, okay, yeah, maybe it's time we actually did something ourselves. I was saying in my last video, next year will mark the 10th anniversary of Bloodborne, which would be the best time to do something more.
Bullshit,
with
it's
the
been
game.
10 years.
Until
That's
it actually
fucking
happens
wild.
by official means, though, at least we have this. A massive thank you to the hardworking developers who are making Shad PS4. You're pretty much fulfilling the dreams of a ton of gamers right now, so keep up the great work. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Be sure to
fucking video is not gonna go away. Yes, I'm aware that Eve's boobs move more. Thank you. Let me send the link to the video. I like Gamers Joint. I've watched his videos for a long time. They are fun videos. Sony probably won't shut down the emulator as long as no one is profiting off of it. It doesn't have any negative effects on PSN.